Hey everybody, it is Wednesday, July 31st, and most of you who follow real estate know big things are coming in August. I wasn't really sure if I was even going to address this in a video just because there's still so much we have to learn about it. But I had somebody recently ask me, can you represent me as a buyer's agent if somebody else is listing it? One, that question has been around since the dawn of time. They think whoever lists it, either they have to show it or somebody in their office has to show it, and that is not how it works at all. If you're a buyer and you have a real estate agent, that's your real estate agent. That's who you use to buy, that's who you use to sell, usually, unless for some reason you feel like you don't need to. I have rescued quite a few deals where somebody listed someone else's house and they called me to help them buy because their listing agent completely did not care what happened once their house was listed. They were like, let's list, and wherever you go, you go. I guess they didn't care. That is super important to me, to make sure you know where you're going, what you're going to do, and what I can do to make sure you get there. So, with that said, whether you're buying or selling, whoever is your real estate agent is who you need to be working with. So, if you want to see something, call up your realtor or your real estate agent. They may not necessarily be a realtor. It just depends on if they're in the National Association of Realtors. So, ask them to see it, whatever. If they're not in your area, maybe they can recommend somebody in your area. As far as it goes with the new changes, some people got together, decided, they thought some things weren't, being explained to them. I don't know. I really don't know the whole sentiment behind the original lawsuit. But if you've ever bought or sold a house, you signed 50 million disclosures, and they're usually because somebody sued somebody along the way. That's why you have to know how much you're paying for a house. You have to know if it's built before 1978, that you have the right to check it for lead-based paint. I mean, there's so many disclosures for you to sign and read through. It is insane. Now they're about to throw a few kinks in the plan, and they're going to say you cannot tour a house without either a touring agreement or a buyer-broker agreement. Here in Tennessee, we've always had a buyer-broker agreement, which just means when we put in the offer, you sign a thing saying, either you're going to pay your agent X amount or the seller's agent is going to pay you. So typically when you list a house, you list it for so much percentage, and if the listing agent brings a buyer, then they would receive all the percentage. If they work with someone, then obviously they're not having to do as much work. So a percentage of that, not always 50-50, because maybe the listing agent has a lot of money tied up in that listing, a percentage of that would go to a buyer's agent. And you would see in your buyer's compensation agreement how much they're being paid or how much they could be paid. You would see if they were paying, if you had a for sale by owner. So I do a lot of for sale by owners or paperwork for people, or one-time showing agreements where somebody might call me and say, hey, look, I'm selling my property to the neighbor, but I would really love for you to do my paperwork just so I know I have the disclosures I need. Well, and I charge a fee for that, obviously, because there's a lot of time and energy that goes into the paperwork, scheduling everything, making sure everybody's covered, and you want the seller, if the seller's going to pay out of their proceeds, to know how much they're going to pay you. And if it's the buyer that's going to pay, they need to know. There's a few instances where, like, I sold a piece of property in Kodak, and as I was selling the land right there on the Bass Pro exit, we worked out a deal where the seller, who I actually had listed for, he had a few extra lots that I didn't have listed, and we worked on one, and the deal was, I'm not willing to go below this price. And the buyer was like, well, I'm only willing to pay this. And I'm like, okay, we can negotiate however you guys want. And I'll even negotiate my fee. But we had to work it outside of what originally we thought the fee was going to be, because they really worked down their numbers. So everybody kind of had to be flexible there. And because this particular lot was another one that was off market, we ended up turning around and doing it as a one-time showing agreement, where the seller said, okay, I'll pay half, the buyer will pay half, and then we all agreed who was paying what and how commission was being paid. So that could be the instance. So if you're going to, as an agent, show a house, obviously your brokerage is going to have their rules, whether they have a touring agreement or you need to sign the buyer broker agreement firsthand. But the whole idea is a buyer needs to be made aware what they are paying if a seller will not pay. Because sometimes, say a seller has a certain number and they say, I can pay X amount, but I can't pay this if we have to go to this number. Or maybe a seller doesn't want to pay a buyer broker. I think that's unfortunate, because a seller should always want both sides to be represented, just so they can protect themselves, unless they know the listing agent. If you know the listing agent well, and you know that listing agent is going to do justice on your behalf, and you know that listing agent is going to fairly assist the buyer, then I think that's okay. If you're working with somebody you've never worked with before, then I would caution you to have your own representation. So it definitely needs to be a case-by-case basis, and you need to know what you're doing 100%. The agent and you need to sit down and have a buyer's consultation, and it needs to be, if I find you something off market, this is my percentage, or this is my flat fee, whatever you may do or your brokerage may have. And if we find something on market and the seller's willing to pay, then, if they're not paying this amount, then this is what's due. So with that said, you're going to start seeing a lot more buyer broker agreements. You're going to have to sign your buyer's agency agreement up front. Lots of times I get that signed up front anyways, way before this law ever came, because I do a lot of legwork off market. I do tons of searches through friends, family, mailers. I will knock on your door, especially if it's a rental or it's a vacant property or a property where I know you might be interested in moving, and be like, hey, I got somebody interested. And if I'm going to put in that kind of time and that kind of money into finding my buyer a property, then I want to know you're loyal to me and I'm loyal to you, and this is what you're going to pay me if a seller isn't willing to pay in the end. And I think, it's been around forever here in Tennessee. Not forever, obviously. I think it came into play in the late 90s. But it's very important that you have that buyer broker agreement. And if you choose to show a home to somebody and not have it, that's up to you. If you're the listing agent and a buyer wants to come along and see a house, you don't have to have a buyer broker agreement, because you already know what you're being paid, and the seller already knows what they're paying you. So, that's already pretty clear. I think we have a few areas where VA, FHA, USDA, or lower budget buyers are probably going to run into some issues of how their agent gets paid. But at the end of the day, I'm going to show my client a house no matter what. If it works out where I'm not getting paid what I would normally get paid, I still want to represent my buyer the best way I can. Do I want to negotiate to be paid what I'm normally paid? Sure I do. But I work with family and friend referrals. I work with friends of friends. I don't pay for leads. I think some people do. You pay a monthly fee and you get so many leads, or you pay at closing for certain leads, things like that. I don't take those on, just because I stay pretty busy through family and friends, past clients, my sphere of influence, and I want to be able to work as much as I can for the people I know and the people they know. And I feel like if I focus on stuff where I'm paying for a lead or somebody's sending me something else, then I'm not helping out the people who got me to where I am. And the people who have helped to build my business are the people I want to thank, and I want to be there for their people, and that is what is important to me. So that is what I focus on, and I know who I'm working with through who their friends are, who their family are. I may not have ever met them, but I'm going to love them by the end of that transaction, I'm sure, because I mean, I don't usually work with people that I don't like. I mean, I've let people go as a client before because, I mean, you're not going to tell me that I need to bless out the seller because you don't like what they said and you think, oh, you work for me and you're going to talk to them this way. No, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, I'm not. You can go work with someone else because I'm going to treat even the person who isn't my client with dignity and respect. And if you think I'm here to be your puppet and do your bidding in a different form, that's not going to happen. What we're going to do is find you the right house, sell your house, and we're going to do it in a manner that we both can be proud of in the end. And there are definitely times that I've said, you know, I just don't think that we're a good fit. And if somebody was to ever come to me after signing a buyer agreement and say, hey, I don't think we're a good fit, that's fine. I mean, it's not happened that I can recall. I mean, there's been times that I've started working with people here and they've ventured further west. So they ended up working with somebody else because, you know, I have my area I stick in. Some people will drive 2 hours. I'm not going to drive 2 hours because I stay busy for the people here. I stay busy for my family, for my friends, for my coworkers here and my clients here. So, you know, I'll go up to Kingsport, Johnson City, East Knoxville, and then I have people all over that I refer to. I mean, I have clients that have bought and sold in Texas, Florida, South Carolina, California, Arizona, you name it, and I will send a referral there and I will receive a referral from them. But it has to be an agent to agent referral, and we are going to work on that person. And those relationships matter. The ones where people are paying for stuff, I'm not doing that. So anyways, I know I'm like a squirrel. It's just like, whew. But anyways, I think all of you buyers just need to understand that you're going to start seeing people start asking you to sign a buyer's agency agreement. Many of you who work with me have been seeing a buyer's agency agreement for a long time. Some of you who I know a little more closer, or I know the person who recommended you to me a little closer, or maybe I'm not having to spend a lot of money up front to try to find what you need. We might not have signed it yet, and we would have signed it at an offer because it is required with the offer to show what your agency is, that, you know, I work for you and I am your designated agent. That has to be on paper. But now it is important that we do that up front. So if you want to see a house, my agency is going to ask you to sign a buyer's agency agreement. Can we have it expire, you know, at closing, at tomorrow? I mean, there's options we're going to have, but you need to understand the people who work for my agency and myself, we're going to do everything we can to find what you need. It doesn't matter if it's a $10,000 lot or it's a $1 million lake house or we're selling your $3 million commercial property. No matter what it is, buying or selling, we're going to do what we can. And while you may have one real estate agent you're working with, we are working with tons of buyers and sellers. So we're constantly juggling while you just have one of us to focus on. So give us a little bit of time, be a little bit patient, but I promise you, all of us 100% are going to do what we can to get you in a home, to sell your home. Even if we let you list at a price we don't agree with, we're still going to do everything we can to market that property and try to sell it. And if you're a buyer and you're looking for a good agent, I promise you, we have some agents that are dedicated to finding you the property you need. And it doesn't matter if it's VA, you're relocating, we need to video a property, we need to video the neighborhood, we need to help you out with finding a local local job and help you get your offer letter sent into a lender, find you a local lender. It doesn't matter what it is. We are going to make sure your home passes for your loan. If, say, you need a handrail put up, that is not a problem. You know how many handrails we've put up? Too many to count. For stairs, for basements, we've put in, you know, a light switch when needed. I mean, painted porches. Obviously, we're not going to go in and remodel a house for you to be able to buy it. But if there are minor things we can do to help your FHA or your VA loan pass, then absolutely we want to do what we can to help you get into your home. And so we are going to provide you with the people who can help, or we're going to help. I have painted many a porches. I have done many a things I needed to do to help a buyer get where we need to be. Sheds, whatever the requirements were, we don't mind. So just know, when you're asked to sign that buyer's agreement, you're signing an agreement saying you're working with us and we're going to work our butts off for you. You may not hear from us every day, but if you want to have certain timeline communication, send a text, send an email, call, and say, hey, could you check in with me on such and such day and just let me know that you've done this and this, or let me know what your progress was for the week. Whatever it is, we are happy to oblige and let you know what we've been doing to try to help get you in your home, or find your lot for you to build, or get your home sold, and see how we can help. So just know, going forward, buyer broker agreement, if you're working with Tennessee Tuesday Real Estate, that is. Some people are going to have showing agreements where you might call them and they'll make you sign an agreement saying they showed it to you. I'm not going to run around and just open a door for just anybody. Now, if it's my listing, I will run and open a door, because it is my duty to sell my seller's home. And if somebody calls me and wants to see the house, if I can get there and open the door, absolutely I will. I have opened for agents who were in Knoxville and they couldn't get here by a certain time and the buyer wanted to see it. I don't mind one bit showing it to your buyer if something like that happens. But if I ask you if you have an agent, just be honest and be upfront. You can't sign 2 buyer broker agreements, because you will be tied for paying that agent and another agent, and you got to be completely upfront with what's going on. So you be upfront, we'll be upfront, and we'll all be happy. So I hope everybody has a great day. If you have any questions, there's going to be some changes coming up. You're going to see, if you're an agent, you're going to see things like the compensation field disappear from our local MLS. Don't put it in your MLS. Don't link a social media post to your MLS stating you're going to pay this amount. Don't try to hide it in your remarks. Pick up the phone and call them and say, look, is your seller willing to work with a buyer's agent? It's no different than if you haven't worked with a for sale by owner, then you might struggle a little. But if you've worked with a for sale by owner, you just know to pick up the phone and say, hey, are you willing to work with a buyer's agent? Either they are or they aren't. If they're not, is it you don't want to pay a buyer's agent, or you just do not want a buyer to be represented? Because if a seller doesn't want a buyer to be represented, that is a red flag. There is something wrong, and they want to be able to get out of some disclosures covering your own butt, and you do not want that. You want to be able to have the disclosures you need to know what you can do, what you can't do, and what recourse you have if a seller completely and totally lies to you. So with all that said, if you have any questions, you can drop them below. You can send me a text. I always leave my number at the end of this, and we are happy to help any way we can. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.